computer. All right, guys, good morning. Good morning, all of you. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. This is the energy efficiency panel discussion, online panel discussion as part of the CLIMAFIX Summit Insight series. What we're doing here essentially is trying to get experts like you in specific verticals within climate action, decarbonization on one place, but online, and having a series of panel discussions with the same panel on the same theme, but splitting the theme into 2 or 3 stages so that each of these stages, each of these sessions can do justice. Otherwise, each of these themes, be it renewable energy or in your case, energy efficiency, these are all such large themes, 45 minutes to an hour cannot do justice. So cutting to the chase today, what I really want you guys to do, what I request you guys to do is look at energy efficiency not in an incremental manner or as something that can provide incremental benefits, but as something that can provide exponential benefits. Or put another way, what is the maximum or the exponential potential of energy efficiency? Each of you can, of course, say this in your own words. For your solution, it could be in terms of total available market or the maximum decarbonization potential, or the maximum extent to which it can reduce CO2 emissions, whichever way you want to present. But I really would like you guys to think big. Each of you guys have that experience and the knowledge and the data points. Think big and see where it can actually reach if you're able to put things in order. So that's the idea. Briefly putting it, the theme is for energy efficiency, thinking exponential instead of incremental. So let's make it short. Thinking exponential instead of incremental for energy efficiency in India. Is that all right?
All right.
Fantastic. So let's start with the introductions, even though most of us know each other. This video will be circulated for the next few years to so many people. Some of you may want to know a bit more about each of you. Let's have maybe a 2-minute introduction about both yourselves and the solution, and then we can get to the next stage. Why don't we start with Ashwin? Ashwin?
Thanks, Darcy. So I'm Ashwin. I lead energy efficiency at Promethean Energy. So we are a firm based in Mumbai, and we focus on thermal energy solutions for industrial applications. So our focus is to help factories decarbonize and reduce the costs that they are spending on generating heat inside their factories. While also saving costs, we also help them reduce the scope 1 emissions. Our product set primarily includes waste heat recovery solutions, some high temperature heat pumps once in a while. But I would say that in India, if you look at the total energy balance and try to focus in on how much energy is being used in industries in different grades of heat, you will see that in low grade heat, the total energy demand is approximately 24 gigawatt, and the high grade heat is approximately 50 gigawatt. So it's almost a 50 to 75 gigawatt of thermal energy consumption in India, in industrial India. And I would say, if you look at also just south, Narsi, you are in mute.
Yeah, sorry. If I may stop you for just a moment, let's go to the potential next round. But I would really like you to also give a bit of information about your background, what you have done.
Okay, so we are actually engineers. So I did my graduation from IIT Bombay and my B school as well. And we was working with some companies in the industrial space before we started off this company.
You can be a bit less humble, and Ashwin, you can be a bit less humble. He did his IIT Bombay, BTech in computer science. And I remember that you also did your MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. You worked for a couple of years in BCG, so you can be a bit less modest. Yeah. Anything else you want to add as the introduction?
Wow, that's very strong memory for someone who works with thousands of people. Yeah, that's okay. You should be less humble about your memory skills then. Our team also is very.
I'm not the one for memory, but I remember this. I mean, these are marquee names. Good. Why don't we maybe go on to Jayesh quickly? a 2-minute introduction about both your company and your background. Your background, guys, that's why I stressed it for Ashwin. Equally important as your company is because your background, many of you guys are both very good educational backgrounds, more importantly, professional backgrounds. I would like some inputs on those as well. Jayesh?
Sure. Thank you, first of all, Narasimhan, for inviting and to be part of this panel discussion. So yeah, I come from Masters in Mechanical from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, way back 2005. I had a very
You're
clear
much
choice.
younger than I am, and some of the others in this panel are, so you can be pretty
It seems like a journey.
comfortable there. Go ahead.
And had a very keen interest to do research. So I joined GE's Global Research. First few years of my career were in research and catering to various verticals of GE businesses. They used to be in everything in 2005. Now they have reduced conglomerate, but worked for GE Aerospace, GE Gasification, GE Healthcare, whatnot. So different technologies, but using the same fundamental physics, heat transfer and fluid mechanics. That was my core. I realized soon that what I really like is what I'm doing. It should be resulted in some output. And research, of course, you have to wait for a decade. The product which I worked in 2005 came out in 2014. Of course, by the time I had left that lab itself. So I joined GE's business unit called GE Transportation, now acquired by WebTech. There I had opportunity to work for GE's India locomotive, which are running now in the field. Got really good hands-on there and understanding the system. What engineering means once you have understood the fundamental. So worked on GE locomotives, starting from operator cab to cooling cab in between engine and inverters. Joined 2 years in another company called Lennox, built their CFD team in Chennai. That's where I met my current co-founder, associate professor at IIT Satyanarayan Sheshadri, when I was employed with Lennox, an MNC for HVAC. Couple of years I spent, and then came out this idea. We have been improving machine efficiency. That's one part of driving efficiency. What is the other way? If you can just go and see where these machines are deployed in industries, buildings, and if you can really make them operate more harmonically and reduce how much energy they are consuming per unit output they are, be it cooling, be it heating. So that's where we are. Currently, I am the managing director at a company called Thermal G. It's co-founded along with me and Satya. And currently, we are serving primarily building sectors. Within building, the focus has been around hotels, more the way we grew, to help them become more carbon efficient. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jayesh. Madhu?
Morning. Thanks for having me on the panel. I'm the founder of Urja Energy Engineering, which provides sustainable and energy efficient cooling and heating solutions, primarily focused on commercial buildings at this point. I would say I'm sort of a born again mechanical engineer, having lost my way for a decade or so, where I had built and then exited a couple of software companies. So about a decade ago, I went back to Terry to sort of, people go to Himalayas, I went to Terry to rediscover my engineering and basics again. So when I started Urja, and a couple of years ago, went back to Stanford for a 1-year entrepreneurial related studies. So that's from an educational background standpoint. What we do is we use a gamut of energy efficient cooling technologies. Now that include technologies like radiant cooling, geothermal cooling, multi-stage evaporative coolings, and heat pumps in some cases, heat recovery, and the list can go on. I mean, almost about 15, 17 different technologies we use to design and implement the solution that we feel can deliver the maximum savings. Now, this can result in savings of 50% to as high as 90% we have, in terms of energy that would be consumed for cooling. I mean, no one technology can deliver this sort of energy efficiency, and there are whole host of technologies available that we integrate to, and implement to deliver these sort of solutions. And we have implemented them in various types of buildings, like commercial offices, warehouses, educational institutions, military barracks, factories, and even aircraft hangars. So while some of these technologies are proprietary to us, others have been around for decades, actually. It's just that, we people have not been able to put them in a manner that we do today. So while we focus today primarily on commercial buildings, there's a whole huge scope in residential sector too. I mean, especially the high rises, and we hope to be there in the next few years.
Thank you very much, Madhu. So, GS, you're the only person who has escaped our marketing imprint. You do not have the background of CLIMAFIX. On all the others, we have made sure that we somehow put it. You have escaped. That's okay. Next time, I'll make sure that I put double the amount of marketing behind you. Why don't you go ahead, GS? Something about yourself?
Thank you.
Good
morning, all the panelists. And thank you very much, Narsi, for including me in this. And I am the odd man out in this elite group of engineers. I am the non-engineer who is being a part of this panel. The main thing is, I think that I definitely deserve a place here because of the efforts that we have been making in our company by selling more of heat pumps and installing. And the heat pumps is one thing I am really very passionate, though I was totally from a different background. In 2009, I got exposed to heat pumps, and I got so much convinced about the efficiency, energy saving, and carbon saving of heat pumps. I totally divested all the other things, and I am concentrating only in heat pumps. And I know Mr. Madhu very well. We have been meeting in many meetings, and I also have told him that we would like to work together here. And also Satya. Desh, I think Mr. Satya, I know very, very well. We have, in the beginning, we have seen some heat pumps operating and hybrid at Hyderabad and in Chennai and all. The thing is that to tell more about me, it is only that I am absolutely passionate about heat pumps. Though we have been concentrating only air source heat pumps and only for sanitary water heating, and I am very keen to get into ground source. That is where I would like to associate with Madhu. I told him also some time back. And I find that that is the thing that has a phenomenal potential in India. I mean, as it is in the other countries. The market is so huge, and we are not in a position to assess how much and all those things because of lack of proper calculations. And I would like to start something with the help of you people to enumerate what will be the total market in India and how we can expand without getting into the small dogfights with the competition and all those things. Our market is such a huge one. I mean, people like us and more than, another 100 people can operate. It is the same thing I told in the Chennai Clean Tech about 8-9 years back. Though it has grown well, but then the growth what we are getting with heat pumps, it is not sufficient. And like what Madhu was telling, that we have so many different technologies to utilize. And in one of that is heat pumps. We can certainly exponentially grow. That's what Narsi was telling us, the initial objective of the meeting. How we can grow. No incremental growth. We have to grow exponentially. We can do it. There is definitely a market. Big market is there. And a lot of public awareness creation is needed. Very well developed markets like Europe and America and all those places, we find they do lots and lots of promotional work with the public, whereas we don't do anything at all. Even among the consultants, even among the the sellers, the installers. The awareness creation is part is very much less. We need to do a lot of things. That's it. Then maybe in the next
Sure, sure. In
session.
fact, GS, to some extent, you have started off the next round when you spoke about the extent to which heat pumps can actually provide benefits compared to what they are right now. We'll come back maybe to you. Maybe you have some data points on that as well. Why don't we go to maybe Ashwin now? Data points, Ashwin, or any kind of a benchmark metric, or even at a qualitative level, what you guys are doing, the heating efficiency at industries, what is possible, as I said, what is possible if we really look at exponential penetration? What is possible? Any benchmarks or thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I was telling earlier, no, I had done some study on this to assess the market size, and roughly the overall breakup kind of looked like. So my focus was mostly on industry, mostly on industrial applications, and the Indian industry was using around 130 to 150 gigawatt of energy consumption, of which, as in my target segment, the thermal energy consumption was around 50 gigawatt, of which around 24 or 25 gigawatt was the low grade heat.
Okay.
So even if you break it down, it was 20 to 25 gigawatt was the market that we were kind of targeting. In fact, we are right now moving into high grade heat also. So that's a very big market, which is fairly untapped. We are working in kilowatts and megawatts right now, while the scale is generally in gigawatt. Uh, so opportunity is extremely high. Uh, how to reach that opportunity is something we
Something for the next
constantly
session.
for the
Something for
next
the next
session,
session. Yeah.
maybe. Yeah,
But
which we are.
even on the opportunity, I may have to get back to you. I think Madhu also had a lot of gigawatts, and hopefully it stops at gigawatts, or maybe it's gone to terawatts. No, we'll go to when Madhu's turn comes,
Sure,
he will
sure,
say. So we'll probably come back to you. These
sure.
numbers, how they translate, because the other point also is, Ashwin, when we are talking about these kilowatts and megawatts, at a thermal level, it is quite different from electric, because the megawatt electric, megawatt thermal, from what I understand, at a thermal level, it could be 2 or 3 times the equivalent of electric. So I'll come back to that. I don't want to confuse you guys right now, some other time. But even assuming it is just 25 gigawatt, it's a massive number. Jayesh, any metrics or thoughts on what is possible with your solutions? He said, look, if we really attack the entire market, maybe we are talking about a 25 gigawatt market availability for us to have our solutions provide efficiency benefits. What kind of numbers or metrics or sizes you're looking at?
So the opportunity is big, as Ashwin mentioned. It's not just industrial, even commercial buildings, if you take. And within commercial buildings, if you look at the buildings like hotels and hospitals, they are just unaware of how to manage their energy. I mean, total buildings in worldwide, I was reading somewhere sometime back, is 100 billion buildings are there, right? And even India, the growth is such that we'll be adding 5x more buildings in the next 30 years, and we have a goal of reaching 2070 net zero. How can one do by not acknowledging the fact that building is one of the most inefficient energy intensity, if you do comparison of industry? Industry is much more aware and educated in terms of how to manage their energy, and they're adapting technology, the processes. But when it comes to buildings, the entire focus shifts to the pattern. It could be a guest, it could be an employee. They don't give that much weightage as it should be given. So my really dream is, from our solutions, if we can bring flat 20% energy reduction. Now reduction can come by managing the consumption, the consumption side of it, or by making machines run more efficient. The combination of two, and if you can do that across this 100 billion buildings across the world, we can really significant contribute in our emission goals, not just India, as well as global. So,
the numbers, well, the global part looks very large. I mean, I can't even fathom it. So I'm going to look at India, and that number, one metric that you gave, maybe Madhu also had some thoughts on that when I was talking to him earlier. the number from what it is today and what it will be in, let's say, 20 or 30 years, you're talking about 3x to 5x of what it's going to be, which means all these are going to be buildings, infrastructure that are going to be built from now
Yes.
over the next 30, 40 years. See, unlike the West, where most of the buildings are already there, so they are more looking at retrofitting, making the existing buildings more efficient. Here, probably we'll have to worry about the new buildings that are going to come up, that are going to be having a larger stock of the total, right? Larger percentage of the total stock, rather. If you look at, let's say, fast forward 20 years or so, very interesting. That's an interesting metric. 4 to 5 times what we have currently is what is going to be built over the next maybe a few decades. Now, Madhu, I think you're probably at a good position to continue with it, because I remember you have some good thoughts on that aspect as well.
Yes. So I echo Jayesh's thought in terms of the exponential construction that is going to happen. Now, juxtapose that with the air conditioning penetration we have today. It's about 7 to maximum, say, 10%. Now, for reference, US, Japan, Taiwan, they're above 90%. China is close to about 70%. So with so many buildings coming up, and many of these buildings being, will have air conditioning. Of course, the air conditioning consumption is going to explode. Right now, I think we are somewhere for cooling, we use about the capacity that is required, not the energy. The capacity maybe is around 70 to 100 gigawatt of power generation capacity that is required to service the cooling infrastructure that we have, which according to International Energy Agency is going to shoot up above 800 gigawatt of additional capacity. Okay. Now 800 gigawatt of additional capacity, today we have around 400 gigawatt for all our national needs.
That's the total installed capacity. Yes, that's
total
the
installed capacity.
Yep.
Correct. So the estimates are that we would require double of our current installed capacity just to take care of our cooling requirements.
Wow.
Now, of course, there are a lot of assumptions which may change with things like urban heat island effect and all that. We don't know where we will go, but these are at least numbers that we have that we can look at. So what this translates to roughly is, and I'm getting into terawatt zone now, is around 3,500 terawatt hours of energy, which translates to, at least with current electrical generation composition that we have, close to about 5,000 megatons of CO2 being generated. Now, Jayesh is being modest and saying 20% energy if he can save, but I think the days of these incremental energy savings are over. There are technologies available, and by putting multiple technologies, including the IoT solutions that Jayesh does, I think we should target 50% and above. There is a scope for that. Okay.
Absolutely, combined technologies. That was only digitization component. You're right.
Correct. Right.
Together.
So if we put together, Jayesh, you would agree, I guess, more than 50% is definitely possible.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And that, I believe, should be the path to our net zero. Our path to net zero today seem to be focused on generation, right? But I mean, instead of gigawatt hours, gigawatts, if we can start focusing more on these megawatts, that avoided generation.
Correct.
I think our path will be shorter. Maybe we will hit that way before 2070 that we have target, right? And for cooling, India is in a very unique situation. So we are on our way to become third largest economy, right? And none of these advanced economies today are tropical in nature. Even China, most of it is above the Tropic of Cancer. So our energy intensity, our need, our efficiencies of our cooling equipments are way different from any of these developed economies' weathers, right? So we will consume, and in fact, we will become world's largest consumer of cooling energy, beating US and China, but a large margin, not even a small margin. Okay. So there is, of course, a huge scope for green air conditioning or green cooling, say. And World Bank recently quantified it as a $1.6 trillion opportunity. And for reference,
Is that just for India? Madhu,
just
sorry.
for India. This is just for
Okay,
India.
okay,
There was a
okay.
special report taken out only for India. As I said, everybody's eyes on India because of growing affluence, warming climate, and this 5x more buildings that are going to come up. There is no other economy in the world that is even close to this sort of expansion in terms of especially cooling equipment. Okay.
Interesting.
Now this 1.6 trillion is a huge number, huge market that needs to be, I mean, that is an opportunity. And for reference, if you see, last year, the investment in entire renewables in India was about $20 billion. Okay. So we are talking, multiples of here in terms of opportunity that exists. And opportunity exists in a various forms. There is digitization, there are equipment manufacturers like heat pumps so there's entire a gamut of technologies in which this can be done. But I want to go a bit beyond decarbonization here, because sometimes we focus too much on decarbonization, because there is if we go this way, there's also a crisis that I would call the problem of cool haves and hot have-nots. See, the middle class and above will buy it, survive somehow this heat waves and heating that is going to happen and cool themselves, even if it costs more, right? But there is a good section of the population that needs affordable cooling just to be comfortable. And I think at some point, maybe not today, this conversation needs to go beyond just the decarbonization goals we have, especially for cooling, because it is a crisis of humanity that we will face. Just like there are shelters for, let's say, when there is a hurricane, there is rain, you would probably need to build an infrastructure, which means your public infrastructure, like schools, bus stand, need to provide that sort of comfort. So even if people who don't have homes that have this sort of cooling can take shelter in such cases. Okay, I'll stop there and we'll discuss this in further seminars, I guess.
Very interesting. I think, of course, you provided a lot of data points. And cooling, we all know, has been on the radar. I think there was this cooling challenge that the government came up with. You probably were involved in it in some way. And what I liked is the fact you took it beyond, as you said, beyond decarbonization into something that will be required as a social benefit or as a social norm for a lot of people. It could be not just people living in offices having air conditioning, but if the climate is going to keep changing, the temperature is going to rise, there are going to be at least few portions of the year when even the masses will need some kind of a cooling. Yeah, so probably that's what you're talking about in public places, in schools, wherever they are. Very interesting. I think that's the part of cooling I had not really thought about. I always looked at it as conditioning.
I'll just add one thing. I don't want to be alarmist, but India will be one of the first countries to cross the climatic conditions that exceed the limits of human survival because of these heat waves.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, definitely alarming. And maybe we deserve to start getting alarmed a bit. GS, so you already spoke a bit on the potential for heat pumps, and this is a very interesting area because GS keeps telling me many times, Narsi. Oh, by the way, he also has a heat pump association. He probably and a few of his friends have started it. He can also say a few things about that. But GS, you have been telling me that the penetration of heat pumps in India compared to what it should be is pathetic right now, correct?
Exactly.
But do we have any numbers, or even if you don't have precise numbers, some scale you can give?
Unfortunately, no, Narsi. I am a small operator.
Not an
I
issue.
keep going,
But is there
keep
any
going different
technique at all?
places.
Could it be 1% of total? Could it be 2%, or is it less than 1% of what is possible? Or any other way
No,
you can
only thing I
express it, so
can
that
tell is,
the guys who are going to listen to this audio or the video,
go ahead.
I think this is a very important
I
area
can
that
add
we
one
need to
number.
observe.
The
Yeah.
total heating which is required in the market, global market again, the only 10% is done through heat pump still, including where Europe has gone much ahead in heat pumps.
So
So it's just
definitely India is
and
much less
90%
than
market.
10%. India is much less than 10%, maybe something like 1 or 2%. That's probably the number.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
It
go
is
ahead.
really surprising, Nasi, even at this time, even after 12, 13 years of promoting heat pumps and all, I am still finding some diesel boilers somewhere here and there and all. Big institutions, big hotels and things like that. I am really surprised. How come? We know there's so many benefits of heat pumps and radiant heating by Madhu, who is doing extremely well in that area. For even for heating, cooling, and hot water heat generation, we need to use this kind of technology. But even in spite of all these developments, the awareness has not reached to many places. As he said, that it may be a 10% or 20% only we have penetrated. Any new project, one good thing is any new project, all the consultants are now come to that age, they are going in for heat pumps. Whereas there are umpteen number of institutions, industries, still they are using conventional diesel boilers, electric boilers, and things like that. I mean, for general heating. Of course, coming to the heating and cooling, and that is not even 1 or 2%. I think Madhu can tell about that, Jayesh can tell about that. We have that technology now. I mean, I'm associated with one company in Delhi who is doing number of projects for heating, cooling, and domestic hot water generation also. With the deep well, deep bore, they are making. They have got new instruments for that, and they are doing extremely well. I mean, though not in numbers, but in the quantum. I mean, the big projects. Leh Airport, my friend is doing that now. It's really very good. Like that, there are many things that are coming up, but then what we are touching is a very small, minuscule of the market. And if we are crossing all these things, and if we are going up for the community cooling places, that is the requirement in the future, what Madhu says, that will be enormous amount of energy we will be requiring for cooling. And for this, what I always been longing is we, the experts or the people who are in the industry, we need to have a sort of a setup like an association, which will be spending some energy and effort to promote with the general public, who will be giving the pressure to the industry to go in for more instead of our going and selling to a builder. The builder should come to us and ask for, yes, you come with the heating, cooling, and domestic hot water heating through your technology. Like that, no, we need to create more and more awareness, for which we have not done anything so far. That's what I feel. And whatever I try to do, yeah, please.
So, GS, I mean, this is going to be a long topic. I know that, this needs a separate session. We have maybe about 5 minutes or so. I'm going to request each of you guys, I mean, this can be in any order, whoever gets or whoever already has a good idea about it. Shall we put down, you see, some of these, most of the challenges are well known, right? As Madhu was talking, why are we looking incremental? If not exponential, we should be looking at least at fairly high percentages, be it in terms of energy efficiency, be it in terms of penetration. Even at the cost of sounding cliched, we all talk about challenges. I think it will be good if we can take maybe the next 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. Any of you guys, what do you think are the top 2 challenges? If we can crack it, the potential you're talking about, whether it is Jayesh's or GS or Ashwin's or Madhu's, can be reached. Maybe these are all very well-known suspects, doesn't matter, but it will be good to have them on record. Or maybe or maybe one of you guys have a very unique challenge that you feel that has not really been thought about. Either way, so the top 2 or 3, it can just be the top one as well, challenge which if broken, yeah, which if overcome, rather, that's a better word, which if overcome can really lead us to the exponential fairly quickly. Is that okay? Any of you guys have an answer? You can maybe speak for a minute or so.
Just immediate one comes to me. I would like to think a little more before I say, but the government incentives or policy around having such technologies is not wide spread or aware. It's very limited. People know in the market, and once you go and approach with such solutions, they start immediately thinking of ROI rather than bringing any element of what Madhu mentioned and what other countries have reached and where are we and what our situation is not clear. People are less. So, of course, it's a combination of marketing plus policy is what I am thinking is one of the big challenge which has to be solved.
Yeah, that's for another day. I agree. Even I have some thoughts on policy. I mean, the America, after a long time, the United States has come up with the IRA, which is thought to be quite path-breaking. But it took quite some time for them. They were also doing mostly incremental policy making. But you're saying maybe it's time we looked at exponential policy making as well, something on the lines of IRA. Okay, anybody else?
Since he has
So for me,
mentioned
one
about
is that awareness is extremely lacking on energy efficiency initiatives in India at the decision-making level. So we are very aware of say heat recovery or heat pumps because we are living that life on a day-to-day basis. But the people who are putting out money, their awareness is not very high. That could be one area. And second is an entire ecosystem needs to be enabled to enable these transformations. By if I have to explain about that, uh, so an end user generally so all the people on the panel are working on energy efficiency initiatives. So even if our solutions are not deployed, uh, the end plant is not going to shut down, whether it be a building or a factory. It's not going to shut down. So it's an improvement project more than a sustainable, as
And
in
critical.
than a
It's
mission
not
critical
mission
project
critical.
in
You're
some
saying it's
sense.
not mission critical.
So in that sense, while it is super critical, there an entire ecosystem, the consultant needs to push these solutions. The end users need to be aware of these solutions from multiple sources. The management needs to have some pressure on them, saying that okay, sustainability is important. So that entire ecosystem needs to be really galvanized to really exponentially shove these projects, according to me.
Very interesting. It's a very interesting
so
perspective. Maybe we have thought about it, but not articulated so well. The decision making, the inertia, whatever is the reason, the decision making inertia is big. I remember Ashwin talking to me about it multiple times because I've been kind of interacting with him for the last 7 years. Many times I keep asking him, okay, now what is your next target? Who's your next client? And he says, well, we have multiple in the pipeline and they are all taking a lifetime to decide. Anybody else?
Yeah, so I would take it further from what Ashwin just said. The ecosystem argument holds, and I think beyond policy, if we are able to enable these influencers in this ecosystem, because if somebody is designing, let's say in Ashwin's case, a heating system for a factory, right, or in our case, a cooling system for a building, let's say, right, the most of the time it is not the decision maker who's deciding what technology should be there, or so whereas somebody there are a lot of, yeah, the person who's designing, I think a great amount of awareness and education effort there needs to be there so that they feel comfortable. Maybe they're not aware. Anybody who's not aware, has not seen it, will not be comfortable recommending it, right? I mean, even you would not recommend something. So a good amount of education there, and similar effort in public space also, where there are organizations like EESL, there are CPWDs, there are military engineering service organizations, right, who are spending a lot of money in, and even in the public sector units, right, Engineers India Limited, right. So these are organizations, if in a concerted way, if effort is made to educate them time and again, today the way we are going about in the market is, Jayesh goes with his solutions, Ashwin goes with his, I go with mine, and so does, Sundarajan. And I see there is an argument in that somehow can come together and start influencing these influencers, right? I think that would be that would actually lay a foundation for a big exponential change in the demand creation for such solutions. Okay, that I think truly believe. The other solution could be possibly can be as a service, and some companies have tried. ESL is still trying. ESL had some success. The solar field had good amount of success moving to operating OPEX model. The experience in energy efficiency field as an ESCO has not been great in India, but if certain guarantees and certain frameworks can be put in place, I think as a service model also holds potential, especially with clients who have a lot of credibility.
Wonderful, wonderful. GS, interestingly, you already mentioned quite a few challenges, at least some of the key challenges earlier. So in the interest of time, and I know that many of you guys might have some hard deadlines to meet, I'm going to bring this to a close. Ashwin said bye to all of you guys here to just move on. I'm going to close this by the following summary from what I heard from you guys. Starting with Ashwin, he looked at a number of something like 25 gigawatt, whatever that translates to finally in terms of CO2 emissions and other things. That's the kind of number he's talking about just for low grade heat. And he's saying if he takes it to the next level, higher temperatures, it could even be 50 gigawatt and higher. Right? And then Madhu, of course, had some really good numbers to talk about. Number I remember is because I love terawatt hours. They sound so big and vast. Yeah, he spoke about a 3,500 terawatt hours. That's a massive number. I don't know what year he's looking at, but whichever year it is going to be, it's a large number because I know one number. The world uses 28,000 terawatt hours. That is the total amount of electricity consumed in the entire world today, right? Now, of course, that is only the electricity part of it. Heating could be another equivalent. But even if you add another let's say 60,000 terawatt hours, 3,500 terawatt hours out of 60,000 for just one country, for just one application cooling is a pretty massive number. So that's something I'll remember for a long time. And I think that's a massive potential. Jay, the number I remember is the 5x. And I think that's something Madhu and I have been talking about many times as well. What is available today is just 20% of what will be available 30 years later, 20 years later in India in terms of the total building stock. That's a big number, the 4x to 5x growth, which means most of the buildings that will be there 30 years from now would have been built between now and then. That's a big deal for energy efficiency because it's much easier. I don't have to go around breaking the buildings that are already existing, which Madhu can tell you time and time again is a very, very difficult thing to do. But for a new buildings, it's much easier. And GS, I think, spoke about numbers, even though he didn't have precise numbers. His feeling is the heat pump penetration in India, given its fantastic potential, is pathetically low. It could be 5%, 2%, 3%, but, well, we are talking about very, very low numbers there. I think this sets the stage. This sets the stage for us to gather again once more online, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I'll keep you guys informed about it. And, well, we did speak very briefly on challenges, but I think we can do some homework at the back end. When we come back again, we can start with the key challenges, maybe for 10 minutes, and then explore key pathways, 2 or 3 at least. We all know where most of these online discussions, offline discussions, they end up nowhere. No, it's a pity. But maybe, a series of these discussions, and the fact that we also have a CLIMAFIX Summit, the fact that I think every stakeholder today is getting more and more serious, who knows? And the fact that we have all these online, which means they can access what Madhu said or Jay said, could make a difference. That's my feeling, that's my hope. Let me close this over here. Thank you very much, all of you. Until we meet again, which is not going to be very long from today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.